So we'll start down with, looks like Kevin Reed down there. Kevin.
Thank you, First Selectman. Kevin Reed, Town Council. I think the Board of Finance did a fantastic job. Can you hear me? On the microphone. Board of Finance, fantastic job explaining that. I myself don't have another word for disappointing, but I might take a little bit of a different tact here. Possibly instead of looking at how we can play that game of taking out numbers, might want to look at it a little bit differently. And what should we do about educating the voters in the town about getting out to vote? I think it's kind of taking a look at ourselves and saying, what are we doing as elected officials, not looking out there and seeing why aren't people coming out to vote? I mean, everybody's busy, and life is not getting any easier. But there's a 10-hour window of time where people can get there. And I did a little bit of a litmus test. I went around and said, did you even know there was a vote today on our budget? I looked at a few people in town, and they didn't know. I did a litmus test the next day. They didn't know. Few people didn't even know we voted on the budget. So that's our problem. Mm-hmm. We have to do a really good job at getting out there as town officials and saying, this is your civic duty, this is your responsibility, you have an opportunity to have a say in something municipal. And I think just instead of looking at, is it 110, is it 170, is it 250, and we're never going to know that. I think it's probably more, why should you get out and vote? Why is this a great budget? I think you guys did a fantastic job on that, and let's look at it more from that tack. That's what I'd like to see us do more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Deborah Hine, Town Council. I feel the same way. We have to keep it. It was a good budget. We worked many hours on that. The Board of Finance worked many hours on the budget. I think the thing is getting the people out to vote, and I think that I agree with the Board of Finance. There's a big misconception of how the mill rate works in correlation with the assessments, and because of that, everyone is looking at an increase where the increase isn't as much as everyone thinks it is. I think that has to be communicated to the public better, because I think that is the biggest misconception of how it's going to actually affect their tax bill and what it means to them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good.
Sean O'Rourke, 24% voter turnout, I think that's what I read in the paper.
24/7/7.
And, I guess give or take, we're basically in the same place that we were last year. I'm hearing a lot of folks weigh in on this, and certainly all valid points. And, I'm not pretending to sit here and know how to proceed with regards to how to read the tea leaves, as they say, with regards to the turnout of the vote. I know Mr. Manjos had made an observation that we certainly don't want to cut too much, because then we're starting to seriously jeopardize programs and such. I think he was maybe referring specifically to the education budget. I think most people would agree education's important, programs are important, we're all for that. It's just a little puzzling that the voter turnout doesn't reflect that, either in the percentage of townspeople that came out, and obviously the end result. How do we move forward? In other words, do we automatically say one side of the budget's untouchable versus the other? Do we throw out do we put out the same budget again with maybe a little bit more dialogue with regards to the mill rate and the commercial property valuations that have increased, and how that would reflect on the average homeowner with regards to the percentage of increase on the mill rate, including the fact that their property values have gone down since the reval. It's a very puzzling and tricky thing to try to figure out how to go here. I mean, to sit here and throw out an arbitrary number to try to I guess appease or ensure that we don't have multiple votes. It's I don't want to say it's a game, because it's not. It's a very important topic, but there's I'm just at a loss at which way to turn here as far as the number of cuts, if any, that need to be made for the next round. Mm-hmm. I still got to chew on this, to be honest with you.
Enid LaPellis. Sometimes I think the citizens of Monroe think they should vote no the first time, since it happens every single year, basically. And eventually the budget will be passed and there will be no harm done. In actuality, when there is a cut made by the selectmen, harm is being done to some group of people. Cuts may be made to the kids, senior citizens, the roads, the general maintenance of the town buildings, and a myriad of other items. If the voters think that this budget was done haphazardly, let me take you through the various steps in developing a budget. First, the department heads meet with the first selectman and tell them their needs. Then the first selectman makes judicious cuts. After this, the town council and board of finance meet jointly. We've been meeting jointly, I think, for 2 or 3 years, to listen to the department heads and hear their wants and their needs. This budget season, we met for 2 nights, and I would say at least 7 hours. We asked questions, got reasonable answers, and then at another meeting, the town council and the board of finance made their cuts and presented them to the first selectman. That is the budget that was presented to you, the voters. It was done with much thought and deliberation. I do think the budget has to be cut because the no votes outweighed the yes votes by 204 votes. I would suggest a cut of $50,000 in whatever areas the first selectman deems necessary. I don't see a large cut. I would just hope that it passes the next time, once people start realizing that the budget, that they could vote, and if they didn't, that they should feel, guilty about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ken Kellogg, Town Council. I think I'm in a position of echoing a lot of prior comments at this point as we're getting towards the end of the table here. I must also say that I feel that the budget process was done very responsibly. It was a very responsible and lean budget that was put forth by all that were involved. I don't think there was anything here that that is obvious in terms of things that need to be addressed. I will say that I think it's certainly, based on the vote, incumbent upon us to take another look, regardless, and make sure there aren't things that we need to evaluate further and possibly reduce further. That said, I also don't believe there is a magic number that we necessarily need to look to. I think we need to do what we feel is right and do our due diligence for the town. I would like to echo the other comments earlier that I think the communication, the message needs to be refined and focused in terms of what the practical impact to the taxpayer is on this budget. I think that is something that I think perhaps is more impactful than the actual dollar amount that we finally rest upon in terms of further cuts, because I do feel that those that voted may have misperceived the actual increase, again, by looking at the mill rate versus the actual impact to their tax bill, which is, as others have said, is fairly small as compared to prior years. So, thank you.
Frank Lito, Chairman, Town Council. I'm playing the cleanup hitter role for Council and Finance here, and we did. I'll echo a lot of the comments of my colleagues. We put a lot of time into this budget. We spent endless hours, numerous meetings. I think Ms. LaPellis understated the amount of meetings that we actually had. For certain, I know we had at least 4 or 5 meetings at council alone, and I was attended at least 2 finance meetings, and I know they had many more than that. And those are just the meetings that are online, and I can't tell you the countless hours that go on behind the scenes with volunteers and our finance department and the first selectman's office and all the input that gets put into this budget. It's truly amazing. And someone who's been doing this for 4 years, I remember the first year doing this and having this same meeting, and I think it was in council chambers at that time. And there was a number of referendums that we had, and feeling the frustration and just not understanding why, why the process was going the way it was. But I have to be honest, the process now is much different than it was 4 years ago. The process now is as transparent as it can possibly be. The process now is as cooperative and collaborative as it can be. It wasn't like that 4 years ago. I can't speak to any period of time before that. So looking back 4 years ago and saying, hey, why did the budget not pass? Did we look into detail enough? Did town council communicate well enough with Board of Finance? Did we overlook a few things, maybe differences of opinion? Did we not communicate well? I can't say that for this budget. I couldn't say it last year either. This is the second year we've been doing joint collaborative meetings. It's been as transparent as possible. Certainly the low voter turnout is a problem. Certainly we need to get the message out there. But I think that's a prevailing problem. One of the things that I do want to say is I spent the morning in Hartford on a completely unrelated matter, but Monroe was certainly on the map in Hartford. So it didn't matter who I spoke to. It didn't matter what town they represented or they were from, the state of Connecticut. They knew that the budget referendum failed in Monroe. That was the first thing they talked to me about. So I guess it's humbling, but also embarrassing in a way, because we had discussions. I spent all morning having discussions about our budget process, and I respect that process. I think it's a good process, and when there's such a low voter turnout, it makes you question the process. It's there for a reason. It's there because we want to do the best job as volunteers as we possibly can for the citizens of this town. And I can respectfully say to everybody watching and in attendance here this evening that we did do that. We put out a fabulous budget this year. It was a lean budget, and when I thought about what I was going to suggest in the past, we've suggested line item cuts to the selectmen. Sometimes we've made generalized statements about areas to cut to the selectmen. I'm having a real difficult time making those suggestions because we're very responsible with this budget. One of the things I will say is this year we've had a really hard time at council getting our message out to the citizens of town. And that's because we've had, unfortunately, very little media coverage at our town council meetings. I mean, with all due respect to Monroe Courier, I don't think I've seen them there in the last 6 months. There's no more patch.
Zero.
There's nobody to report what we do, and our meetings are not televised. Board of Ed has their meetings televised. Board of Finance and Town Council, we don't have our meetings televised. It's something, to be honest, with everybody in the town, that we've wanted to address for the last number of years. Thanks to Mr. Zamory, we did come up with a solution this year that we thought would be helpful for very little cost. $9,000, I think, was the cost to get a technologically advanced system in council chambers that could help televise the meetings. And I think the importance is not that any one of us wants to be on any kind of televised program or closed caption, but I think we want to show the citizens of Monroe what we're doing. We want to be transparent. We want you to see the hard work that's gone into this budget. We want you to see how we've gone through each and every line item, every single member of Town Council, every single member of Board of Finance, and they have a much more difficult job than we do because they also work with Ed, Board of Ed, to look at the Ed side. We don't even look at the Board of Ed side on council. But every line is poured over, every line has gone through, every opportunity is explored. We don't just look at adjustments downward in the budget. We do look at investing in some programs positions and programs that we think would help increase the tax base in town. In fact, we did do that this year in an attempt to recognize that we're not going to have much more residential development in town. Most likely, we're going to have more commercial development, or need more commercial development to decrease our, the impact on each of our residential households from a tax-based standpoint. So we do look at all of that, and I am hopeful that we can include the funding, and the selectmen will find a way to keep the funding so that we can televise the Board of Finance meetings, we can televise the town council meetings, and I think the way that we're hoping to do it is by some type of YouTube link on an internet site so that you can browse it at your leisure. But I think it's important because if no one's going to come out to a Board of Finance meeting and give their input prior to us making our cuts, if no one's going to come to a town council meeting and give us their opinion, if no one's going to send an email to any member of the Board of Finance or any member of Board of Ed or any member of town council, we can only presume that you're putting your faith in us to do the best we can do because you've elected us to be here. And I think that's where the frustration is coming from, is we can honestly say that we've done a great job. I know we have, and I'm speaking from a historical perspective in that in years past, I thought we did a great job, but this year we did the best job we've done in 4 years. So I want to thank council, the members of council. I want to thank the Board of Finance for doing a fabulous job this year. And Mr. Selectman, I think you have a very difficult decision to make. I would say, if I had to suggest an area, there were some considerations for salary increases to try to get the town to help preserve some of those positions and some positions that were added. And in the past, I don't think council has been willing to make that investment in the town. We were trying to make the services more efficient, not expand government, but certainly make them more efficient and give us a better return. So if I had to look somewhere for reductions, I would look at those areas, unfortunately, to start. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
We need to head out, unfortunately.
Thank you very much, Board of
Good luck.
Finance.
Thanks.
And before you leave, I do want to I'm going to thank all the boards and commissions in my closing statement, but you guys have done a tremendous job, as everybody else has said that.
It's been teamwork. So.
It's a very good team effort. All right, we'll go with the Board of Education. We'll start over here.
That's fine. Sure, I'll begin. Amy Primorak, Board of Education. I want to echo what I've heard most of you say. I felt that, a lot of due diligence went into this budget, and as Mr. Lito just said, this year has been a wonderful collaborative year. The last several years, the Board of Ed, the Board of Finance have worked very well together. I know that on our end. I know that Town Council and the Board of Finance have been working together as well. On the Board of Ed side, we put out the best budget we could. We went through it in our workshops in December before passing it off to the first selectman. There's very little wiggle room in our budget. And just to speak to the matter of the education of the town and not knowing if people know what their actual increase is, our town website has all the tools to figure out exactly how much your increase would be. You can figure out what your tax bill is this year and what it will be next year based on the proposed mill rate. I did mine. Mine was proposed to go up $60 under this proposal that just went down, $60. So, it was a very reasonable request, I thought. So my recommendation to you, First Selectman, is minimal to zero cuts. We put out the best budget we could. If we're going to end the game mentality in Monroe, we have to have people understand that there is no room. If there's no room, you cannot make a cut. Thank you.
My name is Shannon Monaco. I'm new to the Board of Ed, and I just first want to thank everybody and all of our elected officials and our superintendent for all the hard work that's been put into this and this budget. I definitely would like to see more people come out and vote, and would like to find a way to get more people out there to vote. As far as with what Ms. Primorak was saying, as far as calculating the taxes, with the revaluations that they were talking about, the new valuation of your home is online on the town website, the MONROECT.org. You could go to the MONROECT.org and find what your value is of your home now with the new lower reassessed values, and 70% of that appraised value is what the assessed value is. So the formula would just be 70% of the appraised value of your house times it by the new mill rate, which is 34.25, will give you a number, and you divide that number by 1,000, and that is your new tax dollar amount. And I agree with Ms. Primorak. I mean, if the average or the median home price right now is $420,000, you would actually take 70% of that 420, times it by the mill rate, and divide it by 1,000 to calculate your tax dollar. And because I think that the mill rate going up, the initially 11%, was perhaps what was scaring people, but that's how you do the math and look at what the real numbers are.
And Mrs. Monaco is a realtor, so she knows what she's talking about there.
Well, with the values going down and so forth, I just want to look at what the real numbers are instead of, I think there was like a panic that set in with the, oh my God, 11% increase in mill rate, but this is what the actuality is.
Okay. Might as well go with the chairman last, like.
Well, I just want to say, as a school board, we spent many months reviewing our needs, questioning our assumptions, double-checking our figures, evaluating alternatives, weighing the feedback on our proposals. from our staff, families, and community. We believe that all of Monroe benefits from investments in our schools. Thriving public schools are the foundation of a vibrant neighborhood that attracts new residents and supports property values. If we don't have good schools, then we're just not a community that's going to attract people anymore. And I mean, in terms of the budget we put out, I mean, like was mentioned, we put out a bare bones budget. You know, we're looking at cuts, we're looking at cutting in the teachers and programs at this point, which isn't a good option. When we cut in the teachers and programs, we increase class sizes, and when we increase class sizes, our students fall behind. And then when students fall behind, we got to spend money on compensatory education, special education, and remedial services, which costs a lot more money. It's a different world now in education. We're in the new era of the Common Core. So class size is really important because we're basically expecting 4- and 5-year-old kindergartners to do first grade work. Right now, kindergartners are expected to read, write, and do basic math. That wasn't always the case. So we're looking at a pretty intense curriculum. So any cuts, the programs and staff is going to hurt. And in terms of a number, I don't have a number. I don't think there's such thing as a magic number.
Thank you.
Donna Lane, Chairman of the Board of Ed, and I will echo what everybody else has said. The Board of Education spent countless hours reviewing the budget, going over it. We kept going back, looking at it. Since we start our process so early, numbers change. Anytime we got any updates from anybody, whether it was our Ovations, our insurance carrier, or anything with our electric, we were able to make adjustments along the way so that we put out the best budget that we could. Our budget stands at 1.82% increase over our current year's spending. That takes care of all our contractual obligations, and that also reduces teachers. This budget does have staff reductions because our enrollment is going down. So it's not like we are staying status quo. We are reducing staff. We are reducing a number of areas because of enrollment. You know, one of our biggest hits this year, which is something unfortunately we can't control, is our electricity cost. We were locked into a contract. That contract expired. Our new contract is a 30% increase in rate over what we were currently spending. That was a huge hit that we just really can't mediate. Luckily, our insurance costs are going great, so we are able to have no increase in insurance next year because our plan is, as self-insured, is paying off, and we can keep our costs down. We have spent, like I said, countless hours going through this. We put out the best budget we can. I would ask for a very minimal to no cut in education. We are really the lowest percentage that we can be at to keep everything for the students that we expect and project to have next year at the levels right now. If we do need to make any cuts, those cuts, and this is not to scare or frighten people, but those cuts unfortunately are going to be in the way of additional teachers and possibly programming. We certainly don't want to do that. This Board of Education for the past number of years has been very committed to not make any cuts that affect the education of our students. That is something that we've sort of pledged and we have been going with. So we try not to cut in those areas. We unfortunately may be at a point where we're going to have to look at those areas, unfortunately. We certainly don't want to, but given a large cut, we unfortunately will need to look at that. Again, we have a great relationship with the Board of Finance. We have made numerous strides in the past few years to work very collaboratively with them, have lots of great feedback. Mr. Manjos and I speak every couple of weeks on items so that we have constant open dialogue on what is going on between us. So that has made the budget process really much smoother. And I think that, the Board of Ed has also worked on a number of years since I've been on Board of Ed, making our budget and making everything very transparent. Again, that was not always the case there, but certainly now we are very transparent. Everything is out there. Anybody can access anything. Everything is televised, so we, please go on the websites, go on Board of Ed website, go on the town website and see what's going on and educate yourself. I think a lot of it is a matter of educating the public and the public not being educated on what is really going on.
All right, with that, and thank you.
Barrett, can I just mention one other thing, please?
Certainly.
I think it's also important, we haven't mentioned this, and again, we don't get an opportunity to speak to the citizens that do watch this town council, but we've been lucky. We were, as most people have probably read, and maybe you don't know, but we have been scrambling as a result of our neighbors who have compelled us to disband and leave the health district that we were once a part of to create a health department from scratch. And that we've been very, very lean. We've been able to create a department that is going to be competent and service every single member of this town fully and competently for the same amount of money that it has cost us being a part of a district. The anticipation early on was that it would cost us substantially more money, and thanks to the efforts of Mr. Vavrick, his office, and Town Council, and Board of Finance, they've worked very hard in the middle of budget season to keep those costs to a minimum. So when we're talking about cutting $50,000 or $75,000 out of the town side of the budget, and again, I can't speak for the education side, we've realized those savings already by keeping those costs down on the with respect to the health department. So I think that's important to know. It's important to factor in that that's already been taken into consideration. So I just want to mention that as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And now I'd like to, pretty much as most of you have heard me say, I have a partner in life. Since he's been here, my life has been a lot easier, a lot smoother, and it's really helped the whole community. Those of you who don't know, this gentleman sitting right next to me, Mr. Augustine, has been a tremendous asset to our town. One of the things that I'm very proud of is, as you heard it tonight, the teamwork aspect of what we're doing with this budget. In my closing statement before the public speaks, I'll say a little bit more about that, but it has to start with the Board of Education. I've said it all the time, one town, one budget. The person who understands that is this superintendent, so I'm going to give him a little time to speak as well.
Thank you, Mr. Vavrick. A few years ago, when I interviewed for the position to become the superintendent in Monroe, I noticed in the interview process that there was a disproportionate amount of time spent on how I was going to prepare a budget, much to my chagrin. And apparently the board liked the approach that I would bring to Monroe, and that is transparency and honesty. So to be redundant with what other folks have said here, that has been a universal focus and goal on us over the past 4 years, and that is the transparency. And I'm a big believer in not taking tax dollars from people and spending them unwisely or not spending them at all. I believe that the taxpayers should fund what needs to be funded, and nothing more than that. And so we try to construct our budgets with what we need rather than what we would want. This year, this current fiscal year, on our roughly $52 million budget, when we project out our costs to the end of the year, we're under $80,000 away from being insolvent, okay? That's how tight our budget is. That's just under about 0.1%. In the corporate world, if you could operate a budget like this and be within 5% of the total budget amount, people clap their hands and think you're doing a great job, okay? $80,000 or less than $80,000 has Gabby, de Blasi, and me very, very nervous. We have to install a backflow preventer in this building to prevent any water that's in the building from ever mixing with the water from Aquarian coming into the building. I don't know how much the valve cost, Jack. Do you remember what the valve cost was?
The valve was $8,000.
The valve was $8,000. The materials and labor to put the valve in is $8,000. This is a single valve in a building with hundreds of valves, okay, to operate the systems. And that's a $16,000 cost that we have to incur, okay, to do that. We're operating almost 1 million square feet of buildings in this town and educating 3,500 students, and we have 7 different unions, and we're running a really tight ship, I believe. Is there always room for tweaking and finessing and fine-tuning? There is, and we'll continue to look for those ways. I can tell you that I have never worked for a Board of Education that has been so focused on cost containment. They have done an outstanding job at trying to contain not only today's costs, but future costs through the negotiation process, okay? The efforts that they have made in coming into the self-funded insurance, to the HSA, to prescription co-pays, to the elimination of pension benefits, the costs of millions and millions of dollars, future obligations that they have taken off the table with their very deliberate and strategic efforts in negotiation are unparalleled in my 30-year plus experience in public education. They've done an outstanding job, and they should be very proud of that. Our current budget at 1.82 is about as lean as I can see it getting. Is there a couple of $1,000s? Is there $50,000? I don't know. We really have to work hard to get there without doing damage to programming. But because we come out with a no-fluff budget, my budget was a 2.52 when I presented to the Board of Education. That was peeled back to the 2.25, and now it's been peeled back to the 1.82. Okay, so we're getting very, very lean now, and we need to be very careful because we do want to provide what's right for our children. A lot of damage over the years has occurred to the education, in my estimation, when, years ago, 5th grade band, for instance, was eliminated. We have been trying to make incremental, very strategic, but incremental changes to bring back some really important programming for our kids. 5th grade band, full day K, which, was really just an incredible improvement in where we were just 2 years ago. And we've been doing that while reducing staff. And we're doing that commensurate with the population decrease of our students. Since 2008, we have cut 43.6 teachers and 13.7 or 13.8, if I round off to the tenths, non-certified people. 5.2 teachers this year alone, okay? Those positions have been eliminated. We're doing everything we can to contain those costs, but you can't contain when an outside agency like the electric company says you're going to pay this much more, or your paper company says you're going to pay this much more. All of those costs, since the downturn and the recession in 2008, I don't think a single vendor has had a 0% increase in the cost of the materials that they're providing for us. So our costs continue to rise, even though we're trying to mitigate that with these reductions in staff and really tightening our belts. So we will do what it takes to get a budget through and to work with the town and to provide the education that the town of Monroe deserves. I just hope that we can do it without too much damage. Thank you.
Okay. And before we let the public, and just so the record shows that from my count right here, there's only 4 members of the public. That's what we've got to stop. See, my job as I look at it is to change perception and how this budget is presented. I'm going to get into the budget for a second, but you've heard every elected official, the ones that are here, The ones that aren't here, I promise you that I'm going to get their statement to you, because this is a public meeting. I want everybody to know what each and every elected official wants to do with the budget. And those aren't here. I know some are in business ventures and all, but I want everybody to know that everybody has worked together countless many hours to do this. I really want to thank all of our elected officials, who are, by the way, volunteers. I do want to address one thing, and I know Mr. Lito didn't mean to say this, but we don't do anything behind closed doors. My door is always open. Each and every person you've seen here has been in my office countless many times, or have given me countless many emails. Nothing is done in any private meetings. I just want everybody to know that. Everything, this gentleman walks in all the time, pretty much some of the staff out there walks in all the time. That's what we need to do. I just want to make sure, the same thing I said to Ms. Primarek, because I've gotten blasted for sitting there thinking I'm taking, I'm on doing whatever, and you're taking notes. That's the new social media way. Speaking of social media, and I'm going to get into a bunch of different things in a second, but speaking of social media, I am on social media a lot. I want everything to be televised. I want people to see who's saying what, so they know what their elected officials are doing. These people here have done a tremendous job doing that. There's no embarrassment. We're doing things upfront and transparent as much as possible. This budget that we now have is a whole new budget. I've heard people say, well, where's your capital plan? People have always voted no. Where's your capital plan? It's actually on, just so you know, it's on the website on page 80 through 85. We've never had a capital plan like that before. We've always had a placeholder. It'll tell you all the things that are needed. This budget also, what the town council saw, what the Board of Finance saw, was real time. For the first time ever, I was allowed, with this new budget format, they saw the real needs from every single department. In the past, they never saw that before, and we still voted on it. The bottom line is, this budget, if anybody takes the time to read it, is the most transparent budget there is out there. Everything is explained. Every reduction along the way has been explained. And those people, I spent the whole day, usually I spend a day out on the referendum day meeting the citizens. I chose to go on 11 different social media pages just to see what people were saying. And I PM'd them. I said, what are you thinking? What can we do? And I saw a lot of people that basically didn't know the process. That's our job. As Mr. Reed said, that's our job. But the one thing I can tell you, and those of you who know me, because I am on social media a lot to get things out there, to get the news spent out there, Mr. Manjos put out a letter explaining the mill rate. I put it out. Various people saw it. I can tell you how many hits, but it doesn't matter. Enough people didn't come out to vote. Not having people come out to vote hurts everybody. I've heard Mrs. Martin say it a lot of times. You heard a couple of people say it. A no vote, a person who doesn't come out to vote is basically a no vote, because there will be reductions. I'm not going to cut any services to the public. Mr. Lito gave a great idea about cutting some different things, which is going to take time when people come to town hall. Nothing's been decided yet. The mill rate gets voted on after the budget. There has been no discussions. A lot of you have come to me with certain ideas, but I want to get back to voting. People say they don't have the time, and I'm going to not tear up, but my mother-in-law, 95 years old, been in a hospital for over a month, nursing home for the last month, got out this past Saturday. She's 95 years old. She's in a walker. It was raining Tuesday afternoon when she was able to come, because my wife picked her up. She got out of the car. It took her almost 10 minutes to get in with the walker. By the way, she was getting picked up to go vote before she was getting her eyes operated on. So if you want to have somebody that has an excuse, a 95-year-old lady took the time to vote. I can't make it any clearer. It's that important. Sorry. Getting back to how we address with the media, Mr. Lito was right. We don't have coverage in the media. But what I can tell you is that for the first time ever, we were on WEB 108, we were on WICC, we were on various radio stations telling people the day of the vote. That was all by design. That was all by me tweeting them saying, can you give us some push on this? We had to get that out there. The day of the vote and the week up to the vote, I can tell you that almost every member of the Parents' Council got people out to vote. So how people didn't know in this social media age, we can always make excuses. What I want people to stop doing is the finger pointing. We've all got to, not that any of you have done that tonight, because you guys are the best team we've ever had, and people have to know that. That being said, there's a lot of things going on that the public, we're all busy. Mr. Reed, you said it great. The public is busy. You're running all over the place, multiple kids in multiple areas. Winter sports are crazy. I get it. I was one of those parents also. But we got to get by the perceptions that the elderly vote no, because, oh, by the way, Nana did vote yes. 95 years old, no kids in the school system, my kids are gone, our Nana voted yes. So vote for Nana. But anyway, not for election, because she's not going to do it. But we are very transparent. This budget is very good. It's a whole new format. If people just took the time to read it and actually listen to your elected officials, these guys did a hell of a job. And as you see it, it's bipartisan. There's no more bickering back and forth. Mr. Lito is right again about saying the fact, and all of you, this is not a contentious budget anymore. I've been here for 28 years. It used to be nasty, ugly nasty. Those of you who've been around for a long time, this budget doesn't do that anymore. The collaborations don't do that anymore. People come into the office, we talk, we get things done. That's the main thing. Yeah, I guess most of my notes are gone. So, oh, I can tell you one more thing that Mr. Lito says, because I'm up in Hartford a lot. Yes, people know about our budget. It's historically, oh, it gets voted down, it gets voted down. We have to remember, 2 times in a row, and I even had to fight with somebody on that because they said, no, it didn't. We passed the budget the first time, 2 times in a row, 11 and 12. It can happen. We got to change that perception. And the other thing is, too, because I had lunch with mayors today, ours is the first process. Again, I've always said this is a very fluid budget. We are one of the first towns that does a budget. Everybody else is later in the month because certain things happen. Our bonding just came through. That usually happens mid-April. I'm not going to say we have to have a charter change or anything, because I do believe in the referendum system. I'm kind of happy because it gives us a chance to sell more, because it is all about trust. Maybe people didn't trust certain things. Maybe things weren't explained. They were explained. We just have to get it out better. So with that, I will now pass it on to the multitude of public out there that might want to speak. And state your name, please.
My name is Mark Antonazzi. I live over on 21 Fan Hill Road. First, I'd like to also congratulate everybody who participated in the budget process. I know I've been there, and I know it's a very difficult process. But as I was going through the worksheet on the website, I just kind of looked at a few numbers. Now, I'm not the brightest bulb in the closet, but I was looking at things, and I have one of the less expensive houses in town, I think. Last year's it was assessed at $275. This year, under the new assessment, it's $265. So I saved, as far as the assessment, $9,500 basically. But my dollar increase is $609. That's a 7.1% over last year. Then I started getting curious. How much was it going back? We moved into this town in 2001, so that's 14 years ago. And I sold a house in Westport where we lived. And back then, in the year 2000, it was worth over $500,000. When we moved here, I saw the taxes. I said, well, the taxes here are a little bit higher, but you know, that's okay. My taxes back then, 2002, were $5,331. Under this proposed budget, you're talking about $9,140. Same house, same value. In fact, a little bit less value according to the assessment. That represents a 71% increase over 14 years. Now, where do you go to get a 71% increase in value? Now, I invest. And I didn't make 71% over 14 years. Wish I did. My house did not go up 71% in value. I've been lucky to sell what I bought it for now, even though I poured a lot of money into it. I think that's my responsibility to the town, so my corner lot looks nice for the town. But I really think, even though you guys did a wonderful job in the budget, I really think you should look at it a little closer and really try to sharpen your pencils. I hate to lay anybody off. You know, I was on the Board of Education for 4 years, so I know the trials and tribulations you guys go through. But I think you should look at a lot of different things, including overtime budgets, people who are maybe duplicates as far as what their job responsibilities are. Board of Ed, I think you have still a little bit, you can let go, not much, but something. I think, Jim, I think you are a terrific superintendent. I tell you, the first day you walked in this door, I thought, boy, that's a guy who can handle this job. But I think maybe you might have to also sharpen your pencil a bit more, because to look at a 71% over 14 years, give me a break. Regarding the turnout, as I remember, Tuesday was kind of a nasty day. Therefore, by losing by only 200, I think you survived the silver bullet, because a lot of people didn't go out because it was pretty miserable. Plus, it wasn't publicized. We lost, the two ways of communication in this town. We lost the we call it the Minuteman, not Minuteman. The two, who were the two?
The Monroe Courier.
Yeah, the Courier. Yeah, those two. They didn't push it as far as what our date was. In fact, my wife came home from work and she said to me, "Let's go out to vote." I said, "Oh my God, I forgot all about it." Now maybe it's because I'm getting to be a senior citizen, and.
Well, you didn't see the sign right in front of Town Hall, where you live right next to. It could happen.
I know. So get used to, you put it out there like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you keep on seeing it, you kind of forget,
Just remember, 95-year-old Nana came out in the rain.
Yeah, well, I'm a 68-year-old guy, and
I know.
I went too. But I think a lot of senior citizens just didn't go out because it was pretty miserable.
Right.
And I think if they did go out, I think that you probably would have gone down with a higher number than just 200. And I think the reason why a lot of times people just don't attend these functions is because they're apathetic. I mean, how are people going to change you? You're going to do what you want to do. If you want to increase it, no, that's what happens. I'm sorry. People are sick and tired of trying to say something and then nobody pays attention. You do what you want to do. And that's why things are going the way they are. People are not coming out to meetings. People are not volunteering. They're not going out to vote because they feel, well, what's the point of going out to vote? Mm-hmm. You're going to do what you want to do anyway. And I saw it as my responsibility, as a citizen in this town, and I like this town very much, just be able to put out the true numbers. A lot of people have houses. You're a realtor. They're worth a heck of a lot more than my house. You said, Amy, that you only had an increase of, what, $20 or something? $60.
Mm-hmm.
How come I have a $609 increase?
I have no idea.
That's 7.1%. You mentioned 2011, 2012. My increase was 2%, 2011. 2012 was 1.5%. All right, the best year, though, was 2010. It was a 0.003% increase. That's only $26. But, going back with the numbers, I got flabbergasted as to how much more we're spending, and we're not really getting much more, bang for the buck. So please, I know you did a good job, and I really respect what you do. Please try to sharpen it a little bit more. I'm not speaking just for myself, I think there's other people who feel the same way as I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Before anybody else from the public comes up, I just want to say, as far as sharpening the pencil, as far as working with the Board of Education, I can tell you, and again, it's been a group effort, the 6 years that I've been first selectman, the increase on Board of Education combined for 6 years was 6.5%. We used to do that a lot higher. The previous 8 years was 40.3. And 8 years before was a 40.3% increase. The past 6 years, 6.5%. So as far as sharpening the pencil, I'm all about listening to what people are having to say, but we're doing that. I can tell you, if you look through this budget, the numbers are real. What the people are asking for are real. This is the first year that, as the council said, they didn't want to come back with, some people are saying $1 million or whatever to cut out of the town side. That's not there this year. They see the real needs. They see the capital planning that's finally here to see, for everybody to see. Trucks aren't going away. Roads aren't going away. Fields aren't going away. Most of the money we're bonding for right now is screw roofs that have been neglected for 35, 40 years. The more we put off, as we see, the more it's going to cost. And what we've done is collaborated together to share technology, to share, well, pay for security. We're taking a lot of the non-educational stuff and putting it on the town side and giving the public what they want with educational value. We have schools of distinction now we never had before. We have a lot of things that are happening with roofs and infrastructure planning that has never been done before. That's in this budget. The technology Mr. Lito spoke about, getting televised meetings, that is important, but it costs money. So we've got to change that threshold of how people think and get people out there. We're going to sharpen the pencils because every day there's something new. The bonding just saved us some money. Maybe the Board of Education will have a windfall with something in the next couple of days. No decisions have been made yet. Tomorrow I'm actually meeting with all the department heads to get their input, because those are the ones that are going to have to suffer. I'm not going to cut services. I'm not cutting roads. I'm not cutting maintenance. I'm not cutting programs for the children. We're going to work together and cut out pretty much everything else. If it takes longer to get to school for one reason, it takes longer. If it takes longer to, you go into town hall and ask for somebody and they're not there because they're working in another department, that's what we're going to do. But you all have to know there is no fat in the budget. Those days are long gone. You've heard it from everybody out here. Sometimes we're not all friends, but guess what? We work well together, and we get the things done what the public needs. So anybody else from the public?
Steve Shapiro, 42 Harvester Road. I'd like to welcome myself back for the 18th straight year.
You missed 2 years.
What?
You missed 2 years.
I missed 2 years.
Because we only went through the first time.
Last year I sat here and I was emphatic about getting the vote out. I talked here and I said, I go to some of the workshops, I understand what the budget's about, but not enough effort is done the month or the before getting the vote out. And I sit here today after the vote has failed, and I just think the money that's in our budget today would be well spent to take some money out of the town side of the budget and put it on TV. You got to do it, Steve.
It's in this budget.
It isn't. Well,
it is.
It is.
It's a technology budget.
But the problem is we're doing it after the fact.
I can't do it without money.
Well, I'm just saying.
I know.
You could have done it in last year's budget or the year before's. We just didn't. I would say that this is probably, and I've been to a few of these rodeos, probably the best budget I've ever seen.
Thank you.
The word transparent is used, but the transparency is between the Board of Finance, the First Selectman, the Board of Education, the Town Council, and not to the public. And that's our biggest problem. Two people, I think, that did a tremendous job this year, and I'm not knocking any of the commissions. I think Heidi and Ron deserve a round of applause from everybody on every. I think they changed the numbers as we went along. I think that there was discussion between everybody, and I think if the public had seen it on TV, we just don't give the public a reason to come out. They used to come out 20 years ago because you were eliminating the hockey team. They came out because you were going to not do new band uniforms. You got to give a person a reason to come out. If Big Y didn't have buy one, get two free, nobody would show up. Our problem is you give them no reason to come out. Do I want my taxes to go up? No. But we don't give, what are you giving them new? You say you won't cut anything from the roads, and there's $300,000 decrease in the budget side of the operating on the town side. We're taking $300,000 out of roads. When I go to have coffee and somebody says, what changed in the budget? One thing that would get the budget passed the first go is just write down every road you're going to spend the $2.1 million on. So when I go to my neighbor and I say Harvester has all the bumps at the top and we're not on the list, maybe we'll be on the list next year. The heck of this 0.67 and all these figures that I can make figures turn upside down. Just list the roads and says if you want your road fixed, come vote. Don't tell them yes or no, just tell them to come vote. You were giving the people no reason to get out in the bad weather and vote. I really believe that. And I could sit here as one of the true participants, public participant that went to these meetings. The town council probably had their best dialogue and understanding of the budget in years. The town Board of Finance let us participate as public participation. I think it was a great put-together budget. I just think that maybe next year when I'm not here, the TV will help. I know that the discussions I've had with people enjoy and understand a lot more about what's going on because the Board of Education is on TV. Maybe we need to go to more of the social events in town and flyers at basketball games and rec basketball. You got to go out and put things in people's hands. Mill rate, if you had a contest for $1 million, I don't think 1/3 of this town could understand what the mill rate's really all about. All they know is that the value of their house went down. Now, why would I want my taxes to go up if the value of my house went down? Seriously. My house went down $70,000 in value. And you want me to pay where the person before me said what he paid in taxes. I was paying like $4,000 or $3,000 30 years ago. I don't have any kids in the system. They got a great education. I think our education system here is terrific. I think listing the roads, I think that's the biggest complaint. We bonded $2.143 million. Tell them what we're going to do. People are bitching that, people are complaining that the roads that we did do need to be looked at again.
Because of the winter, everybody's...
Because of a really tough winter.
Right.
I'd also put out that for this year's budget, if everybody votes yes, you'll actually fix their mailboxes that you all knocked over. That would get the people out. I think I think that we also need to communicate to the public what the drivers of the budget are on an honest, straightforward basis. Number one, debt went up $335,000 and was offset by taking $300,000 out of roads. The rest of it on the town side is all salaries, wages, and new positions for $500,000. And with that $500,000, it's $250,000 of benefits. Pure and simple.
Union given benefits.
Benefits that go with those salaries.
Right.
I would say if you want to cut something, I'm 100% against adding the town planner. 100%. It's a $100,000 position that's going to go on with this town for the next 20 years. It's a $75,000 position that's in there for $37,500 plus the benefits. It's a $100,000 position. Our land use department 4 years ago was $480,000 in total wages. Anybody know what it is today? $717,000 excluding the $37,500. Bring back Mr. Tuba. He used to do it, and we have not a third of the growth that we had back then. I don't care that another town has 2 planners, okay? When you can afford it, do it. When Walmart comes, add 6 town planners. But you don't have the money now, don't do it. I'm the only one out there that went to the meetings. I understand what everybody says, because we're going to get royally beat up. I really believe, and I won't be here, but I'm really sure that when we sit here 2 years from now, our health department is going to cost more than $169,000. I think if you don't have a figure in there of 250, we're going to cut off our nose to spite our face. And if the people in this town want public health, because when something happens, we better take care of it. I'm not sure, and I don't believe in that $169,000 figure. I just don't, and I'm only one of a public. I know that Mr. Kellogg did a lot of work, and Steve did a lot of work. I just don't believe, if we're looking forward to this town, that 169 is the right number. And I think if you went to the town and told them that the right number is 250,000, so in juggling the figures, I would put more money in contingency, because I really believe, and I'm close to budgeting and things of that nature and talking to other people, that there might not be enough in that health department. I really believe you can do away with some of the new positions. I know that the 250,000+ in police is something that it's there, but look at it, the other $250,000 increase in salaries, 250,000 increase in salaries, and if you really wanted to, I don't think we've ever spent the full budget on HR insurance in the last 10 years. You could probably take $100,000 out of that and put 50 in contingent and look at the town planner, and you could probably reduce the town side by a net of $25,000 or $50,000. I think everybody's correct. The people didn't come out, it was bad weather, and I'd probably have the registrar of voters make a list of who's come out in the first vote in the last 3 years, because those are the people that come out and actually vote. They don't care if it's raining or snowing or whatever, but they come out. And I'll be honest with you, Mr. Agustin, I think you've done a terrific job. I wish the people got to hear what you and Mr. Blasio had to say at the Board of Finance meeting, where you laid out the cost of the paper and the cost of the increase in the rate in electric. If people had heard the reason why, they might have voted yes the first time. And hopefully with the addition of them watching, because people do watch the TV, I think we got I've lived here for 40 years. I think it's a great town. It's a great place to let your kids grow up. I just think that the transparency has to be more out to the public, to public forums through the clubs and things of that nature. But I think the best budget ever put together. I thank the town council, the Board of Finance, the Board of Education, and the two gentlemen above. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public?
If before we move forward, is it possible to make a comment on some of that testimony that we just heard? You know, I couldn't help hearing
Well, let public speak first. I just want to...
Jen Aguilar, 32 Surrey Lane. I just wanted to say thank you. I thought it was a great budget. I didn't complain about anything in this budget because I thought it was a great budget. And unfortunately, our plan didn't work, Mr. Augustine, so signs have to go up. We have to remind people. But I also think, going to your point, we need to let more people know. I know we do the Da Vinci Fest, and Parent Council was there. Some people from MOVE were there. I think you all need to be there at the table that we're at, and you need to be putting out the flyers and reminding people, not me, excuse me. And I think that would help. If you guys are all there every year at these events and flyers and all that stuff, I know we want to save paper, but it helps when you send out a flyer, when you let people know, not via social media, not via email, let them know on paper. It helps. That's all I had to say. Thank you again. Thanks.
Anybody else from the elected people that are still here?
It's you, Sean.
Anybody else want to make any comments from the elected side?
Yes, I wanted to address the comments regarding the town planner to this budget. There was a couple points here that, you know, obviously I'll disagree with here with regards to waiting until we reach a certain critical mass before we go ahead and hire a town planner. You know, that's akin to, you know, waiting for the commercial development to proceed without any help or without any guidance or without any support and expecting it just to happen and then hire a planner to help manage that after the fact. Our town is diverting in two different ways right now regarding population. We're having an increase in the 55 and over population, whereas those below that age group are decreasing at that point. We're going to need some means of generating additional tax revenue. One of the best opportunities that we have for generating that tax revenue is our commercial development. I see myself, I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, I see that as our best chance in the immediate future to try to generate our tax base to help, for that matter, propel all the services and programs and salaries and benefits that a well-run town needs to run. Yeah, again, waiting for the projects to develop on their own and then hiring the planner just seems to be bass backwards, in my opinion. That's all I have for now.
Anybody else?
I have one clarification. I misspoke when I did speak before. When I was speaking about the board's cost containment strategies, I said that they had curtailed some pension, future pension obligations. That was incorrect. It was retirement incentive obligations is what I meant to talk about. So please excuse that.
Okay, in closing, because I can, I want to thank you all for coming out, but I also want to tell you something that I want this whole process to be truthful. I want this process to be transparent. I do not live in a world of fear. I live in a world of getting the information out, and I was part of that fear factor, and I don't think it worked very well. I don't think people really like to say, well, if you don't come out and vote, I'm cutting this, this, and this. It didn't work then. It kind of forced a lot of division between everybody. People thought that, well, you must not like education because you're not doing this. You might not like roads because you're doing this. And as far as publishing a road list, as Town Council knows and Board of Finance knows, I can publish a list all day long, but we live in New England. We can't pave at certain times of the year. That window is very tight. So if I give you a list of 25 roads, and if I give the public a list of 25 roads, and we only do 10 of them, that to me is, I'm lying to them. I'd rather not do that. The plan is there. You can see the plan at any time. The roads themselves, I'm not going to sit there and tell anybody that I'm paving Harvester or Longview or whatever, because if that window shuts and we don't pave those roads, I've lied to you, and I'm not going to do that. I think we do have a good budget. And getting back to the land use situation, not that I like to compare ourselves to other towns, but I came from Newtown today talking about the health district and getting some help and getting some planning there along with Mr. Kellogg. And Mr. Kellogg, were you pretty amazed at that land use area?
It was very impressive, this out there.
Yes. One of the things that has been my goal since I've gotten here is, A, to get this budget looking like this, with Ron and with Heidi and with the Board of Finance and with the Town Council's approval. We now have the Munis software. We now have this software to do the capital planning, which I keep saying capital planning because it's in the budget. But the main thing is, yes, I have put a lot of money into our land use, because guess what? If you go to planning and zoning meetings and inland wetlands meetings, there are a lot of things going on. People like to say that we're not growing, but we've had a lot of grand openings, and granted they're replacing other businesses, but there is a lot of interest in the town of Monroe. That is because they see a coherent group of land use people that are basically overworked because there's so many applications coming in. And some of these people have actually come before land use. It's not just the people coming, it's not just the companies coming, it's people coming. There are people putting additions onto their house. They're staying here because guess what? As some people say, they can't move anywhere else. This economy in this state is horrible, but we're doing the best we can to keep people happy, to give people services. I think we've done a good job with our roads. Yes, I did take out $300,000 because we bonded. We missed a bonding period. We bonded 2 years, 2 times in a row, and that's going to give us a 3-year window. Next year, I'm going to add that money back in. I can tell you that right now. So those are the things that we're doing. The planning just doesn't stop here. We're trying to look down the road. We've never really done that before as a whole group. We have a committed group of volunteers that come to meetings all the time. As far as the TV, Mr. Shapiro's 1,000% right. But remember, the Board of Education's on TV, and a lot of parents didn't vote. So it's not just, again, not pointing fingers. Seniors didn't vote because of the rain. Parents didn't vote because they're busy. We need more people to vote, but I build it on trust. I don't build it on fear. So hopefully we can move by. I can tell you that this is going to be a tremendous next couple of days, and we'll get the number out, and I urge everybody to support. If the town council wants to come to some of the meetings with Mr. Augustine and myself, or the Board of Finance, the Board of Education, feel free, but don't think that we didn't go to different organizations. The parents' councils, you know, we met a couple of the parents' councils. We do that job. I am out there. I am seeing a lot. So are a lot of these other people. We just got to get more people to trust the process. It's a good process. So if there's no other questions, guys, have a good night. Thank you very much for watching us.